Hello, Nigeria, and welcome back to the show. However, we are now joined by Alhaji Shuaib Idris, who is the CEO of Timeline Consulting, and he's going to be speaking to us today about business management in today's economy. You're very welcome to the show today, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. A very good morning to viewers and good morning to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
For joining
Thank
us.
you.
All right, I think, first of all, you're a business owner. We know some of the challenges. We're looking at managing businesses in the Nigerian economy, and we know some of the challenges that the average business in Nigeria faces. Chief would be power. You know, we have a power problem. But in your view, what are some of the other challenges that businesses in Nigeria face?
Well, I think beyond power, which a lot of people do almost always speak about, is there are quite a number of challenges that, in general, business owners do face. I think chief among them, I will try to see if I can mention fundamentally 2 or 3 that, bedevil virtually every business owner in Nigeria. Number 1 is human capital. This is extremely a challenge to virtually every business owner in Nigeria. And when we say human capital, we are meaning personnel, we meaning staff, we meaning issues that bothers on attitude of staff, work ethics, morale, honesty, sincerity. These are issues that are greatly in short supply in today's Nigerians. And people come in here to start a business, and you see everywhere we said unemployment. Unemployment is somewhere around 35 or 40%, but are there Nigerians that are employable? I think this is number 1. Number 2, following closely to that, is issue of funding, finance. Where are the banks? How many banks do we have in Nigeria today? 15, 20 of them? And how many of them can lend long term? And most businesses will require funding that will probably last for between 5 to 7 or 10 years. Most of the banks are not in a position to lend longer than 3 years because they themselves have gotten deposits that are 90 days, maximum 180 days. And I think last on that agenda is the issue of security. As long as there is no security, no matter how much you want to prosper as a business owner, it is practically impossible to do so. So yes, electricity is an issue, but beyond electricity, there are so many issues that we appear not to be talking about. I can say with all sense of modesty that government is doing reasonably well to address the issue of electricity, but not so much is being done on the issue of human capital, for example.
Yes. Now, aside the challenges that we face in Nigeria today as business owners and people working in businesses, we also know that regardless of the challenges, Nigerians always have a way of overcoming. For example, Nigerian women have been voted as the most entrepreneurial women in the world. Now, we have been able to continue to maximize our potential regardless of these challenges. So what do you think it is that keeps us going?
Yeah, I think, environmental and cultural factors should be looked at critically in this subject matter. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I'm in the middle of 2 ladies. And, so obviously I can only but agree with you and lend credence to the fact that average Nigerian woman, because I also want to go back to my house and have a decent dinner. I don't want to be kicked out by my wife.
Very valid point.
So at least Nigerian women are tenacious, they are passionate, and because largely most of Nigerian families, be them Igbos, be them Yorubas, Efik or Ichekiri or Hausa or Fulani, generally women contribute significantly to the running of the family. They take care of the children, they take care of the food in the house. Sometimes some of us go out of the house without leaving, what we call chop money, and we still want to come back and meet dinner. So Nigerian women, you see them either doing guguru, kuli, so many small businesses that ordinarily you will think, even an average woman may not be able to do, but they still do, and they are tenacious and they are passionate and resolute and able to contribute, largely because of the demand of the culture of Nigerian societies in general.
All right, so you mentioned one of the challenges that you mentioned will be human capital, and I dare say that that is one of our greatest challenges. At the start of the show, we mentioned how Nigerian youths over the weekend were arguing in support of internet fraud, saying that the older generation, our politicians, have embezzled our commonwealth, our national commonwealth. So the youth have no other choice than to engage in internet fraud. Now, some of our values like truth, integrity, hard work, customer service, we've lost a lot of these things. The question now is, how do we find our way back? Is there really, how much can we do? Because from the statistics, a large number of people, young and old, have lost all these moral values and codes of conduct that we're talking about. How can we get back to the place where we ought to be?
Honestly, this is a question that is bothering virtually all of us. A couple of years back, while I was head of human resources in Dangote Group, we had a research on the attitude of an average Nigerian worker. And we discussed with human resource practitioners in Unilever, Nestle, Cadbury, Procter & Gamble, and the rest of the big guys. And what we came to realize is that, yes, there are indeed issues with our curriculum, the schools, from primary school to secondary school, down to the tertiary education level, where we impact, culture of hard work, culture of meritocracy, and culture of diligence of doing the right thing. Yet, because we tend to emphasize on issues that are needless to be emphasized, issues like federal character. You come to an environment or an organization and they said, because I'm from Kaduna, the cutoff mark is 50%. And because you are from Rivers, the cutoff mark is 60%. It tends to ensure or engender mediocrity. And this country has elevated mediocrity into a standard. So we need to go back. Yes, affirmative action is relevant and is cogent and is realistic to be implemented in form of federal character, because even in the United States of America, there is affirmative action. But be that as it may, there is need to have an avenue where merit-based affirmative action should be implemented, as opposed to just federal character irrespective of the scores on or the level of intellect. And that is number one. Number two, what that research also came out with is we realize if we put an average Nigerian, in the same environment, the same training, would say an Indian gentleman or a Chinese or a Portuguese, tendencies are Nigerians will even be outshining some of those nationals. And the training is important. So we need to go back to the basics, not just from the schools, but also from our families. These days and this age, tendencies are we leave the care and the upbringing of our children to nannies that we don't even know their parents or even know the countries where they are coming from. Unfortunately, now it's even a vogue that Nigerians will take a Filipino as housemaid to instill a culture, say, of a Yoruba personality or a Yoruba family, which is an abnormality. So we have some of those cultural clashes, and this is the beginning, and that is the foundation that we have lost, and that is the consequences that we are getting in terms of low quality human capital that we have in the country.
Now, I'm just going to revert back to employment, because you stated that the unemployment rate is about 35 to 40%. Now, we also know that last week the federal government came out to state that they are considering adding on an extra year to education for people in university here in Nigeria. Now, as a business owner yourself and as someone who has the intelligence of running a business, what advice can you give to the youthful generation out there with regards to developing your skill set to become more employable here in Nigeria?
I think fundamentally, government should consider tinkering with the curriculum instead of just adding 1 year. Even if you add 5 years to the school calendar, as long as the process does not change. Like we said in computer age, garbage in, garbage out. As long as you don't change the curriculum and you don't change the modus operandi of instilling values and cultures to the children, nothing will change. Number two, I will suggest to an average Nigerian who is desirous of getting employed, there are employment opportunities worldwide. There are employment opportunities local. There are employment opportunities in the west coast of Africa and indeed in Africa. And all we need is attitude and training. And we need to imbibe that without necessarily having to beat my trumpet. One of the things that I have imbibed at a fairly young age is educating myself. This day and age with the internet age, you can actually register for a program as little as $100 and educate yourself and improve yourself so that you become even more employable. Unless otherwise children do that, tendencies are, the world will not wait for us, and the world has become a global village. We will be sitting down here with high unemployment rate, and we will be getting laborers from Ghana, from India, from Philippines coming here to take jobs that rightly belong to us. Unfortunately, government of Nigeria does not appear to care less about protecting even some of those jobs that should rightly belong to Nigerians.
I like that you mentioned education and how people should invest in educating themselves. Now, one thing that we know when it comes to business as well is that education is also very important for business. We find that there are many people who are running businesses but still go to school to get a certificate, a training in business. Now, amidst all the many problems that we have, what are some of the things that business owners can do to place themselves ahead? You've mentioned getting education, but let's take that the problems in Nigeria, they're here, they're not going away for a while. How can we thrive, through the murky waters that we find ourselves in as business owners?
No, I think as business owners, we need a couple of, attitudes that we need to imbibe and instill and sustain them. Number one, culture of standard. We must realize that, yes, we might be operating in Nigeria, but we should understand that Nigeria is not an island. Nigeria is part of the global environment. So the standard that we should imbibe, the standard we should put for our products should be a standard that is comparable to that of Europe or US, United States of America. Unless otherwise we do that, we will begin to be selling low quality product. I think this is number one. Number two, we must also realize that Nigeria and indeed Nigerian businesses are here and they are operating in Nigeria, but the market that we have is west coast of Africa, 16 countries, 380 million population that you can move your goods about without little or no hindrance. So business owners must realize that their target should not be Nigeria. Therefore, substandard products, low quality products, because you think Nigerians tolerate almost anything, will not help us. And the only way the Chinese economy was able to grow is by upscaling standard. When Taiwan started production, I remember one of us, the young guy, we were very young then in primary school, they asked somebody, what is the opposite of original? He said Taiwan. Wow. You remember, because the low quality was associated with Taiwan. But today, where is Taiwanese product? They are comparable to US. Most of the Apple, products that you have on Apple, for example, they are produced in China. So quality, I think standard is very, very important.
And I totally agree with you. I couldn't agree with you anymore. We need to upscale when it comes to our standards. We need to go for the best rather than settling for what is available. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Alhaji Shuaibu Idris. He's the CEO of Timeline Consulting. And if there is nothing you take away, remember the fact that for you to be able to compete globally, you need to increase your standard. Forget that your business is within Nigeria. Look at what is obtainable in other countries. Keep up with modern best practices in your area of business.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love her.